What kind of fuckery is this?
On September 25th, 2018, Bill Cosby was sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison for his April conviction of aggravated indecent assault pertaining to his attack on Andrea Constand. Because she was one of the few women whose case still fell within the statute of limitations, Cosby was sent to trial. As expected, my social media timelines exploded with some ashy, ignorant, misogynistic, whiny reactions to the conviction. It was a prediction I wish I'd gotten wrong. The most common theme of the dribble were complaints about the lack of convictions for white men of the famous variety from accusations of sexual assault and rape. For some reason, many of those complainers didn't, and probably still don't, understand convicting rapists and those guilty of sexual assault and disparities in charges, trials, and convictions of non-black men who commit such crimes versus black men who do are two very real issues, but not issues that are mutually exclusive. In early 2017, I decided to stop using the word but so much because of the way it tends to negate or minimize whatever was said before it. Instead, I made the effort to use and far more often. And gives credence to what has been said and adds to that. It encourages understanding an alternative and shows more than one thing, one belief, or one course of action can be viable. And is what I wish I'd seen more of on September 25th and the past several years this Cosby conversation has been happening. William H. Cosby is a rapist. He admitted as much himself when he said in a deposition he purchased drugs to render women unconscious, then raped them. Only Bill didn't use the word rape, despite the fact unconscious people cannot consent to sex. None of this is up for debate. And though Cosby clearly is a rapist, the very public trial and subsequent sentencing has brought more attention to many of the famous white men facing similar accusations and the seeming lack of criminal proceedings as a result of those accusations. And I get it. They all should be locked up without question. However, when expressing the desire for them to all meet the same justice Cosby met, it should be understood and relayed the ultimate goal is protecting the victims. The main priority is seeking justice for the women and men who suffered behind the actions of these men. Instead of trying to minimize Cosby's egregious acts, let's focus on the and of the situation. Cosby is a rapist and was rightfully convicted. And I hope we all work towards extending this same fervent quest for justice when the perpetrator isn't black. So yeah, let's focus on the and cut the buts. I'm Malika Rogers, and that's This Week in Fuckery.
Ready?
Thank you so much for tuning in to Tackling Tomfoolery. This is episode 1 of season 4, and I'm really excited and can't believe this is season 4. I mean, I never thought season 1, episode 1, that there'd be a season 4. I just couldn't see that far ahead. But I'm so excited that we are here and that we are ready. This particular episode, I have 2 special guests. I have Kelly Ceballos and Ebony Chambers. Their bios are going to be listed on our website, on Stitcher, on SoundCloud, possibly on YouTube, and also on our Facebook page. So there will be tons of places, and probably also our Instagram. So you will get to know a lot more about these ladies in writing. But they are both Sacramento residents, though not necessarily from here, but both Sacramento residents, both very active in their communities, in outreach. Kelly Ceballos is a spoken word artist, and Ebony Chambers is an educator, an advocate, a public speaker. So she's a lot of things as well. And so the conversation we're having today is about bossing while black. because these are two women who have both been in leadership positions professionally. And so we're going to talk about what that means and how their Blackness has affected their experiences as people in charge. So thanks for tuning in. All right, so today we are talking about bossing while Black. And so, Ebony and Kelly, I have you two here today because I know that you all have worked and currently work in leadership positions where you have a staff or you have people who have to answer to you. You are in charge of someone or something. And so with that comes, I know, a separate set of challenges, not just as women, but as Black women. And so I want to get into sort of the different facets of what that experience is like for the two of you. So let me ask first, do either of you ever feel out of place in your position? Have you ever felt like, am I really supposed to be here? What am I doing here? Maybe this shit isn't for me.
I feel like that a lot because I'm in a male-dominated industry anyway. So with that alone, yeah, I feel out of place. And I asked myself today, what am I doing here? And out of my entire organization, I think I am just about the only Black person.
Oh,
wow. So I field all the Black questions, which is really odd. So yeah, it's hard to navigate because you have to be diplomatic because you're at work.
Right.
But then on the same note, you want to have the freedom to say, you can't ask me these types of questions. You can't be that way with me while we're at work. And I'm still trying to navigate through that because I'm only a year and a half into my position. So I was new to begin with and trying to just teach them how to accept me the way that I am when I shouldn't have to teach tolerance or teach acceptance. It's pretty hard to navigate.
So, Ebony, have you ever felt out of place, or have you, had an experience where you just felt like, no, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. This is right.
Yeah. When I first, I've been with my agency for 13 years, but when I moved into my director role, my agency's been around for 118 years. And when I was promoted to director, I was the first Black director in the history of the organization. So it was significant to have moved into that position, but also lonely at first. I think by way of bringing me on in that role, there became like a free for all of other Black women to join, which was amazing. So I am partnered with now 2 other Black directors, and so now we have to watch ourselves in the break room, but that's okay. We all gather and make them nervous, and it's a good time and a good laugh. But I'm definitely not alone now, and my the person that my CEO has a diverse background, although she's Caucasian. So she's got a adopted sister that's Black, and so I think that has helped us move into this place where she is open to feedback, open to diversity, and open to me kind of taking the lead on ensuring that no one feels alone and people have a safe space to sit in whoever they are and bring that authentically to the workplace.
So have either of you ever felt unworthy of your position? And it seems like it's not an odd question to ask, but I think often Black women, we're disparaged in so many ways. that I think it can be easy sometimes to feel like, oh, I'm not supposed to have this. I'm not supposed to have this success. I'm not supposed to own this home. I'm not supposed to drive this kind of car or whatever it is. Sometimes it can be easy to feel like we aren't worthy of something because of the way we're sort of pelted with negativity, pelted with imagery, pelted with words, pelted with interactions that imply to us we aren't supposed to have certain things and we aren't supposed to achieve certain levels of success. So, have either of you ever felt unworthy of whatever it is, wherever you are professionally?
I don't feel that way now. I have felt that way before. I used to work in a home inspection. I used to work for a home inspection company, and I led a team of 6 men. Mm-hmm. And one of them asked me,
"Oh, technology happened." You froze, and so first you started cutting out a little bit, and then you froze, and then we were like, "Uh-oh." So, unfortunately, you'll have to start your story from the beginning.
That's okay.
We did not hear it.
So I worked for a home inspections company, and I manned a team or supervised a team of about 6 gentlemen. And one of them asked me, what did I do to get to be the boss of them?
Wow. Whoa.
And it did trigger me, because for a second I was like, gosh, maybe you're right. What, here I am, this lowly woman who's younger than all of you and darker than all of you, and yet somehow I'm in this position. And so I pondered that for a quick second, and I was really flippant in my response to him. I said, maybe it's because I went to college and got a couple of degrees and you didn't. And it was in that moment I was like, you know what, I do deserve to be here. And I have not felt like I felt since then. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I worked really, really hard, and I sacrificed a lot to earn those degrees. And I decided after that episode that I was not going to let anybody take that from me again. Mm-hmm.
I know that for me, I don't supervise or manage anyone, and I never have, and I've never wanted to. And in terms of running something, I mean, I certainly have some goals, but the running of something needs to be my own thing, so that I don't really have the ambition to do that in my 9 to 5, right? And a lot of people, as a government worker, there's just like a certain path, right? You start with this position, then you move to this one, then you do this. And then after like that third position, the only thing that's left really is management. And if not, then you're just kind of stagnant, until you no longer work for the government, right? So, with most people, they have that desire to become a manager and to, then after that, then the next level of manager and so on. And none of that interests me. But I think it's really because it's not that I don't think I'm worthy. I mean, I'm capable of anything, right? But I don't have the interest or passion for that work. I don't have, it just looks like a bunch of meetings that don't mean anything. A meeting and then followed by a meeting about the meeting and then a meeting to plan the next meeting, and which is the general nature of government work. And so for me, I don't have a desire as a government worker to man anything, to supervise anything, to manage anything. As it stands now, I think I'm going to be pretty soon, like reviewing other people's work and assigning them work. And even that seems like a little management minded for me. And I'm already like, yeah, But, the job is what it is. I have to do what I have to do. But I think were I in a different industry, something that maybe I was passionate about, maybe I would be more interested in moving up. But I have had, even when I've considered, would I apply for management? Is that what I want to do? I have had moments where I thought, do I deserve to do that? Do I have the qualifications for that? Have I put in the time for that? And I don't feel doubtful about myself now, but I definitely have had those moments where I've been like, well, maybe I shouldn't apply for this job or that promotion because I don't have this many years of experience, or, so-and-so has been doing this for longer. So-and-so knows more than I do. So I've definitely talked myself out of even pursuing different opportunities from those feelings of not being worthy. I don't have that issue anymore, but I definitely have been there and probably missed something that I could have had because I didn't think it was for me, when it totally could have been. So have either of you ever been hesitant about pursuing leadership positions?
I haven't been. I think the only time I was hesitant was a fellowship opportunity, and applying for that and looking at the previous year's cohorts, wondering if I was worthy, that kind of feeling of should I? But within where I'm at now, I wasn't. I've been requested. You should take this on. And a lot of it is you don't have to interview. We want you in this role. Nice. So I felt really embraced. And because I've been there for a while, there's a certain comfort with that. And I want to acknowledge that. But I definitely know when I've stepped outside of that, right, with the fellowship program, they were only selecting 25 people across the United States. And I thought, I don't know if I should even, why would I even consider myself worthy? And then I decided to apply. And I did get in. And then showing up on the first day, I remember calling my mom and going, why did they even pick me? I should be in this group. And my mom was like, you shut up. You're supposed to be there. You better own it. And you better not show up tomorrow looking like you don't belong, because you do. And I appreciated that pep talk, because honestly, since then, as I always keep my options open. And even today, I interviewed for a position, and immediately they got on the phone and said, are your salary requirements firm? And I said, they are. If that's a problem, then have a nice day. Right. And they said, oh, wait, we just wanted to make sure. Okay. Because I know my worth, and I know what I can offer, and I know how valuable I am, and I will not budge on that, so, but it's definitely an evolution of how I've developed, and I love and passionate about developing others. And so through the development of others, I think that's firmly grounded me in the development of myself. And so that's been helpful. But, definitely coming from a supportive environment helps to foster that and as well. And, that can't be discounted, because I know that does not happen everywhere. And I'm truly thankful for
it. Does not.
Yeah,
it does not.
For that atmosphere and that culture of the respect that I have for my role. It's not always, there's people that come in and I'm like, who are you talking to? But that's not always the case, So.
Well, I was going to ask that next. I'm glad you brought that up, because I assume that at some point, as people who have supervised and who have managed, you've had to have some come to Jesus conversations with employees, with staff members. And how were you perceived? How do you think you were perceived when you've had to have sort of the difficult conversations with staff? Have you been perceived as hostile? It's this Black woman trying to tell me and fuck her, or, and why she's so bitter, she's so mean, she's so harsh. Have you had any of those experiences when just really trying to get into the disciplinary end of your position?
Absolutely. Because again, I was new to the position and I was dropped into the middle of all these seasoned people. And there was one person on the team who was just refusing to fall in line with the new regime that I was implementing. And I called her into my office and I was like, hey, you, I tried to be pleasant and just say, hey, I need you to tighten up your attendance. I don't want to have to issue you a warning. I approached it very gently, but because it was something that she did not want to change about her habits, and because it was something that the old person in my position allowed, and because she had been there for 8 years and I had only been there for like 3 weeks, she felt like she didn't have to do as I was asking. So some paperwork later, it got confrontational, not me with her, but her with me. And I don't do confrontation. I'm like, I'm just going to write you up and go on about my business. And you, on the other hand, you're going to have a write-up in your file. And I ended up being called angry because I refused to listen. I was being obstinate. And my boss at the time called me in and asked, were you being difficult?
Oh my God.
And I said, well, what do you think? When you hired me for this position, did I present myself to be obstinate and difficult? And she said no. And I said, well, then why, in a situation that called for me to do my job, would you call me in here and ask this of me, but not call in the person who had the infraction and ask that of that person? Right. So then we all three had to have a come to Jesus. And it has been resolved. And now that person that I initially had to have the conversation with, now she and I have the greatest working relationship that I have ever had with any other coworker in my entire employment history. Because at some point we figured out how to get along with each other, but it was a rocky road for about a solid month and a half.
Wow. Ebony, how have you been perceived? How do you think you've been perceived when you've had to have those challenging conversations with staff members?
I have, I don't even know where to start. We definitely have had our fair share. And it's those kind of like microaggressions that kind of come up in regards to how I'm perceived as an angry Black woman at times, based off of the need to say this is how it needs to be done, or these are the next steps. We had a woman who responded in a difficult manner in a staff meeting regarding being culturally responsive. We were doing a cultural responsive activity in which we talked about the various things that were happening in the community and how we can be more responsive to the people that we serve. And her question to the entire team, we have very diverse teams, was, well, when are we going to talk about white people and the challenges that they face?
I can't even stop laughing.
Are you kidding?
Oh my God. Y'all are killing me.
Are you serious?
That was the day they fired me. They'd have been like,
I'm so serious.
You can't manage people while laughing at them.
I'm so serious. She did it. And being in a diverse team, right? I had people come to me afterwards. I wasn't actually in the meeting when she said it. So I had staff coming to me and going, you won't believe she said this. At the time, she was actually up for not a manager position, but what we would call a lead position where she could mentor other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I basically sat her down and I said, I cannot consider you for this lead position right now because you need to take some cultural competency classes. I'm going to give you 3 weeks on white privilege. I'm going to get you prepared and geared up for how to never say this again. Because you in your role, and no one will respect me if I promote you into a lead position and you said something like this, And she lost it. I mean, when I say lost it, off time, leave, stress leave. She filed a formal complaint. She refused to acknowledge that white privilege existed. We were sitting with her. We were running through materials. She was taking classes outside of the agency to try to learn. And what she would bring back was that she learned nothing. And
wow,
the same way. And no one was going to change her mind. And now, in fact, she was actually being discriminated against. Because of the fact that she's been held from a position, a promotion, based on just simply asking an honest question, like, when can we talk about white challenges? And so she ended up suing us, quite honestly.
Oh, my God.
Oh, Lord.
I mean, it escalated quickly. And so I'm I'm thankful for my work team. I'm thankful that, a couple of years after I was promoted to director, we also had a Black HR director. So she was like a caged animal. You hear me? She got our director is Black, our HR director is Black, I'm Black, and these are all the people that are conducting investigations. So we even brought an external person in. It didn't matter. She was completely unhappy, and we ended up just saying it was nice to know you. But,
wow.
That changed the fact that she was calling on every white Jesus ambassador she could find to rally around her around what a terrible and reverse racism.
Oh God, not the reverse racism.
That was listed, in her complaint. So of course, I'm walking through the building going, now, which one of these white folks thinks I'm a reverse racist? And really think that that's a thing. But yeah, it's real. But I'm also thankful that I'm respected too. So a lot of folks were like, can you believe that she's walking around here and she's posting on social media? And I'm like, I don't want to know. I don't care. I'm over it. Yeah.
That's what. Wow.
Bless her heart.
I like.
Are we going to bless it?
Whoever that woman is, she just gave me like the best belly laugh I've had in a while. That was good to me. That was so insane. And yet, like, so typical, so expected. Right. Like, it's not surprising, but it is hilarious. I'm sure she feels indignant to this day. How dare they?
Yeah.
How could they have? She's somewhere on like a Trump or a MAGA website right now.
Yeah.
They're just so out of line. You give them a little bit of authority and look what they do.
She started a GoFundMe account. I'm pretty sure of that.
Oh, God. I cannot. No, ma'am. So as Black women, how do you, or have you ever experienced your Black employees being overly familiar or feeling like they can take advantage or feeling like they have an in with you strictly based on Blackness, not based on we have a professional understanding connection. I do my job well. I'm blah, blah, blah. And so I'm, you're looking out for me. But just because I'm Black, you're Black. So if I come in late, shouldn't be a problem. I don't show up at all, shouldn't be a problem. I don't do my work or very well, shouldn't be a problem because we all sisters in here, right? It's cool. Have you ever had that experience?
Go ahead, Kelly.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I've only had it once, and she was gone swiftly. because of other reasons besides that, right? Because of that, but also because she just wasn't performing well. But yeah, she, even in the interview, I was like, red flag. She was like, you know what I'm talking about. And I was
no.
Don't say that, 'cause I don't know what you're talking about. So please explain. But for the most part, everyone else is really reserved. They come on board and they actually are thankful. Like if they've seen me in the interview and they go, I straightened my hair for the interview and then I walked in and saw you with a huge afro or African wrap on your head. And I knew I felt like I was going to be welcomed here to be my authentic self. And so I'm thankful that at the very least, there's a welcoming face that they see through the building that's a reflection of them in some way. And can create a space because I truly do try as best as I can to bring my authentic self to work every day that in turn allows others to be. So I see some people come in and then they're shifting. They shift in how they are and who they are based on the comfort level of seeing like, I'm doing it and you can't, it's okay. Be comfortable, not too comfortable because we're in a professional environment, but please be yourself and say what's on your mind when necessary and call people out when they say something that's not okay. And so that definitely happens, but I've only had that one experience where, and she was gone. It just wasn't. Yeah.
I've never had any black people, black people that I've had to manage. But I have had white employees try and soul it up.
Yes.
And it is so annoying. Hey, sister girl, how you doing?
Nope.
Nope. What? My name's Kelly. You can call me that. It is okay. I am not your sister and I am not a girl. Please don't call me that.
Yeah.
That's the only experience that I can draw from since I haven't had any black employees. But it does annoy me to my very soul to have somebody approach me that I hardly know and hit me with the, oh, you know what's up. Hey, sister girl, how you doing? Or attempt to, since this is new hair, or attempt to touch my hair. Since it's different. Oh, that's different. Hey, girl, I see you, girl. Okay, well, wave and keep it moving.
Right. Let's end it with you like my hair.
Right.
And go on from there. Bye-bye. Yeah, I now have a black manager, and I haven't had a black manager in, 10 years. And even that was short-lived. So I've pretty much been managed by white men and white women. And which has been, it's been. So it never occurred to me when I met this woman, a month ago, it never occurred to me to see her and be like, oh, okay, it's going to be cool because you black, I'm black, all right. It never occurred to me to switch it up in that manner or to suddenly become unprofessional for the environment or to think her presence means that I can somehow skate through work because, oh, you here now? Oh, cool. I'll be in at 8:15 instead of 8. I mean, none of those things occurred to me, but I definitely have seen it happen before. And even, I've been on an interview panel before, but that's been 20 plus years ago. But I have been in a position of escorting people to interviews. And I have had people come in for an interview, see me as the person taking them to the panel and being like, cause you know what I'm saying, and with the nudge, don't do that, girl, because you don't know me. I'm not going to rat you out, but you don't know that. You don't know anything about me. I could be like the worst turncoat ever. Like
Right.
you might don't do that because you don't know. Don't let, as much as I love sisterhood and camaraderie and all of that, that's something that you have to ease into and something that develops as you get to know a person and know a person's character.
Right.
But if you don't know me, don't do that because you don't know what I might say about you. You have no idea what I might do when I take you in, after I take you into this panel. So it's best not to do that. And that's another thing for me with having a new manager and having her be Black. I don't know that woman. I have no idea how she operates. I can't make any assumptions that because I'm Black and she's Black, that all these magical things will happen. Black girl magic will just naturally form, and I don't know, the stars will start twinkling, and I don't know that. I'm learning her as in the workplace, and just like she's learning me. So I can't make any assumptions, and I'm definitely not going to be overly familiar with that woman. Even as I get to know her, I'm still not because I work for her. So there's just some things that I feel you don't do. There might be over time some understandings, where you can look at your Black manager and the look is the conversation. You all know what's going on. But beyond that, I mean, there has to still be some kind of, I feel like there's some delineation between the staff and the management. It doesn't have to be ugly where, it's like, this is the queen and we're all the paupers. It doesn't have to be that. But I feel like there's just a certain level of respect or a certain kind of way in which you communicate with people when you work for them that you reserve for a manager. And us all being Black is not enough for me to cross that line, cross whatever the line is I've drawn.
Right.
One, because you don't know who you can trust all the time, and two, because it's just tacky. It's not workplace appropriate to me. But so, have you ever had your authority usurped? And if you did, how did you handle it? And do you think that your Blackness or your sex was a factor in that authority being usurped?
Yes. And it was because of my old executive vice president stepped down from her position. And it kind of placed me still in my same position, but halfway in that position. Mm-hmm. And so I was dealing with people that I didn't necessarily have to deal with before. And they were having a hard time taking what I was saying because it was coming from me, this, again, new person, and again, a woman. And I've had people say, I'll just go around you and ask the board. Right. And I'm like, well, seeing as though the board is going to take my word anyway, how about we just deal with it here and avoid that? Mm-hmm. No, go right around me and ask, only to be told that you got to go with the recommendation. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's happened more than once. And it's always by the same, not the same person, but just the same type. I work with a lot of business owners. Mm-hmm. So they're in places of authority anyway and feel like I don't have to listen to you. And a lot of it is this white male authority figure having to listen to this Black female authority figure. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm not asking you to bow down. I'm just asking you to do what I'm recommending you do. And in the end, it's going to help you grow your business, which is what this organization is about in the first place. Mm-hmm. You're only hurting yourself by going around me. Finally, the one particular person that kept doing it ended up getting talked to. So I did feel some support in that the higher up powers that be said, hey, you know what? The next time she makes a recommendation, you might just want to follow that because you're kind of wasting everybody's time. Mm-hmm. So I felt good after it was all said and done. And I finally started to feel some support for the company that I work for. Finally.
Mm-hmm.
I had, I teach part-time at UC Davis, and they send me to all around to most of the UCs. And I was at UC Santa Cruz and was challenged by one of my students. And so I always challenge my students, regardless of the subject matter. I always bring in diversity, demographics, because we're in the business of serving families and those that are underrepresented in like mental health systems, child welfare, probation systems of care. And so I talk about that. I don't care if I'm teaching, I don't know, about Fruit Loops. I'm going to talk about the demographics of Black people and Hispanic, Latino, and how, there's an overrepresentation of them and we need to take a look at it. And I always do that. And I filled it in. And I asked, what is the demographics of Santa Cruz? Let's talk about it. And she did not like that she was being called out because she didn't know the answer. And we have leadership roles coming into our classroom. So she was in a leadership position with Santa Cruz County as well. And she didn't know the answer. And I said, we need to know the answer. And I said that amongst her and her peers and some people that were underneath her. And when we're talking hierarchical in regards to that she may have supervised or her manager supervised. And she wrote a whole ass letter to UC Davis.
Wow.
Before I even left the campus, I had already received a call from my dean regarding how rude I was to her and that I would not welcome back to UC Santa Cruz again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Look at you just out there making people mad.
Right. And I'm going to keep doing it. And I let UC Davis know I won't stay on if there is now an expectation that I won't do this, because it's a part of my work. It's part of my journey to make sure that it's in their face more than they would like to recognize. And UC Santa Cruz is predominantly Caucasian area, right, but they have a large Hispanic Latino community of migrant families and undocumented families. And you telling me you don't know about them? You telling me you don't know their statistics? Telling me you don't got, 12 kids on probation and they're all Hispanic, Latino, but 90% of your population is Caucasian. And so I call folks on it, and I'm going to continue to, and that didn't stop me. I was frustrated by it. But I didn't let it dishearten me. I just was like, well, that's their loss. And I'm not welcome back. I'm not welcome back. Don't nobody want to go to Santa Cruz anyway, except to the boardwalk.
I can't think of any other reason for me to be there. Plus, that boardwalk is overrated anyway.
It sure is.
I don't want a $30 corn dog. You can keep that shit. You walk on that dirty ass beach. I mean, we got pinball machines in Sacramento. I'm cool. I have shared this before on the podcast, and this wasn't. This was one time. I used to be a trainer. I have trained off and on from the time I was 19. So I had a group of new people I was training, and we'd meet every morning at 9:00 to go over any questions they had from the day before and start talking about what we were going to do on that particular day. So we worked on 2 different floors. So I came up to their floor for the morning meeting, and there is someone else in the room with them standing at the front of the room, and she's instructing them on something. She has given them little binders with who knows what in them, and I walk in the room, and she is spooked. Oh, Malika, I didn't know you were coming in here. I said, well, don't let me stop you. Keep doing what you were doing.
Hmm.
I'll wait. So I just sat down and looked at her like, go ahead and do what you were doing before I got up here. And the people in the room, the new employees were, when I walked up, they were looking at her. They all looked confused because they didn't understand why they were in there with her. Who is she? Why is she talking to us? What is going on? This is not Malika. So she said, oh well, I was done. I bet you were. So I email the next day her manager because she wasn't a manager or a supervisor or any of that. And basically, her manager wanted to go around me and have somebody else train the new people because I wasn't a part of that unit. I used to be. That's how I knew the job. That's how I knew how to train them. And that's what I was hired to do, right? But she resented that I came from another unit and was trying to tell her people what to do. And also, she had some kind of conflict with my then manager. So I guess she felt like, how can I get at this woman? And so one of the ways she tried to do that was by trying to insert this other person behind my back. So I emailed her and I just said, I don't know what's happening or why, even though I really did know why. And I just said, but I walked into what was supposed to be my morning meeting. There's this other person there who's not supposed to be there, as far as I know, doing the job that I was hired to do. So I just want to get a clear understanding of what's happening. Is there an issue? If there's an issue, can you let me know what the issue is so that we can address it? Is there something you're looking for that hasn't happened? If there is, let me know what that thing is. And if this is about some kind of ongoing conflict with someone else, I would hate for, my professional path to be affected by that, by whatever that conflict is that doesn't involve me. So please just let me know if there's something I can do. Just let me know what that is. So it was probably about 4 or 5 paragraphs, and it was really nicely worded. But the thread running through it was, "Bitch, don't don't do that." So, but I also knew I'm talking to a manager. It's not my manager, but it's a manager. So there are certain things that I'm not going to say in the email. So. I send it to my manager first. And she says, it's cool. Go ahead, send it. So I do. And I CC my own manager. So what comes back to me is my boss's boss was like, oh no, you should have been the one to send this, not Malika. The chief was like, Malika sent this woman this scathing email. I can't believe it. It wasn't scathing. I can do scathing, but that wasn't scathing. And then a few other management people. The manager of the woman I emailed was like, I don't know anything about these issues. There are issues? I had no idea, which was a lie, of course. So basically it all boiled down to me being this angry, bitter Black woman who sent this nasty, scathing email to this poor, unsuspecting white woman who's just trying to do her job and manage her people. And then my angry Black ass came in and tried to just ruin it all. But I didn't catch any direct flack. My manager ended up catching most of the flack because they were like, well, you should have been the one to address this, not Malika. She's like, well, Malika's the one it happened to. And also because I have conflict with that woman already. If I would have sent it, then you all really would have jumped down my throat and just made it, about our personal issue with each other. Right. So that's why I let Malika speak for herself. That did not go well. And that had to be about 5-6 years ago, maybe. It's never been cool in that workplace since. Wow. It's not like a powder keg and I walk in the door. It's not that, but it's been an issue ever since. And the way I've been viewed has been different, interesting. I'm difficult, because of it. Anytime I have spoken up for myself, it's been, you're so difficult. You're so angry. You're so hostile. Whoa, calm down.
Calm down.
I'm speaking the way I'm speaking to you all right now. And then the response is calm down. I once approached a woman. This was when I was doing like secretarial type work. And I sent out some kind of memo or letter that needed to be signed by a bunch of people. And it got sent back to me because something was missing or whatever. So there was a note on the front of it. And so I was like, oh, let me explain why I did it this way. So I go to the person who I think wrote the note and I say, hey, is this your handwriting here? And she said, yes. I said, okay, well, let me explain, something. Whoa. There's no need to be all hostile.
What?
I'm looking behind me like, what? I came to just explain this work. Like, what? Hostile? I said, I'm not hostile. I'm not even raising my voice. Like, we're literally having a regular conversation. And she said, well, let's have it in front of a manager so there's no problems.
Wow.
So we end up in a manager's office. And I said, well, frankly, I don't even know why we're in here because I just came by to discuss a memo and a note she'd made on a memo. And I wanted to explain why it was done the way it was done, which is a little bit out of our norm. So I don't know why we're here. Well, she just seemed really angry. I said, I never raised my voice. I didn't use any harsh words. I just said, let me explain. And now here we are in your office. And so then, she just seemed very upset. And I said, I don't think I seemed like anything. This is just she's viewing me through her own little lens of weirdness. And it doesn't have anything to actually do with what I said. And so he said, well, what do you think is happening? Because, he's taken aback because he doesn't know why these two women are in his office all of a sudden. So I said, well, I can tell you exactly what's happening. I said, when you look like me and you assert yourself in any way, even when it's professional, it's taken as hostile. Mm-hmm. So everything you have to say, you have to think it and rethink it and make sure that you tone it down and make sure that you accommodate other people's feelings and all these other things before you can even say words. I said, that's why we're in here. I said, it's an issue with me and my Blackness. It has nothing to do with what I actually said to her.
Right.
And so he says, well, whoa, let's not bring that into it. I said, no, let's absolutely bring it into it. Because if that weren't an issue, we wouldn't be in your office having this conversation. So we're absolutely going to talk about it. And I just did. So now it is on the table. This woman started boo-hooing. The white tears started to fall. And so, and I'm just sitting there looking at her like she has a third nose, You already had two in my head when we walked in here. Now you have a third nose. So I'm just staring at her like she's weird. Why is she crying? And so I know why she's crying, but why are you crying? And so he says, well, let's calm down, Malika, because you can clearly see that she's upset. And I said,
calm down, Malika.
Yeah. And I'm literally same tone I'm using right now as what was in that meeting. And so I said, I'm also upset. I just don't cry at work.
Bam.
So I don't have that luxury of bursting into tears in the workplace. But I'm also upset. I'm upset that I'm in this office. I'm upset that she ran in here like she needed to tell on me for something that didn't even happen. I'm upset that I'm being addressed as if I'm some sort of villain, and all I wanted to talk about was a memo. I'm upset that now these tears have you feeling all sympathetic, and because I'm not curled up in a ball crying, there's no sympathy for me. And even if I were to curl up in a ball and cry, then you all would just think I'm crazy and I'd probably get in some kind of trouble for that. So again, I don't have that luxury. Mm-hmm. So are we going to talk about this memo or nah? Because that's why we're here. It's just that no one's ever called me racist before. I said, I didn't call you racist. I didn't say anything about racism. I'm talking about perception, personal bias and things of that nature. I didn't say anything about you being racist. I don't know you well enough to know if you are or not. But I do know that my Blackness is the predominant reason why we're in this office right now. So about this memo, though. So I don't, like I said, I haven't been a supervisor, a manager, or whatever, but I have dealt with a lot of the things I would think someone in a Black woman in a position of authority would, experience in some ways. Like when you're trying to discipline an employee and that person she was so mean, or when you assert yourself in any kind of way and then it was so harsh, or she scared me, or I didn't know, I felt threatened. That's one of their favorite ones. I felt threatened.
I think the hardest part for me is also the fact that some of us we have a team of clinicians, all kinds of different backgrounds, but they're all feelers. And some of my questioning comes in as, did you think I was harsh because I'm Black, or would you have said this to anybody else? And that's the thing we always question is, someone cuts me a line. Was that their privilege, or was that just because they were a rude individual? So there's that constant, questioning of, am I being perceived this way because this person is just sensitive as hell, or doesn't, or would feel this way with anybody else because they don't like to be disciplined, because it does, or is it because I'm a Black woman in authority, or in a leadership position, and that is perceived as dangerous or threatening to them. And that's that feels really unfair. I think for me is that, we always sit in this place of, did this happen because of Blackness or because life?
Right. And sometimes it's so difficult to make that differentiation.
It is.
Do you ever, because I don't know how that would work in a professional environment, but have you ever found a way to ask that, to clarify? Even if it's not, is this because I'm Black? Have you ever asked, where's this coming from? What's the source of this? What is leading you to feel like you're being attacked or like I'm bullying you? Or, have you ever asked, or I don't even know if there's a way to ask.
I've asked.
Go ahead, Kelly. You asked?
I've asked. My boss, when she was new, was trying to push a lot of her responsibilities off on me because she simply did not know how to do the tasks. And instead of asking me to help her learn how to do it, she wanted me to do it. And I said, no, here, you learn by doing. Let me show you how to do it. And she said to me, I sense a lot of resistance from you. And I flat out asked, what makes you feel that way? Why are you saying this to me when I'm only trying to help? And I think it startled her because no one has ever questioned her before, I guess, especially, a lowly underling like myself or whatever. And she was like, well, because you're simply not listening to what I'm telling you to do. And I said, well, it's not that I'm not listening. I hear you. I am offering you help so that we don't have to continue to have me taking the responsibility of doing your work. And she was like, well, I still sense a lot of resistance. And I said, and I'm still asking you why you feel that way. She never answered the question. Ever. I mean, in our relationship, while it is better now, I still feel like how she views me is this this very triggered, pop off at any moment Black woman that sits in the office next to hers. And it's not that way. I'm jovial in the office. It's just the idea that on days when I am not feeling it, I feel pressured to feel like I'm in the mood simply because I don't want to be perceived as, oh, that Black woman in the office that's always angry.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people understand or respect the fact that we as Black women in the workplace, we as Black women in the workplace in authority, we can feel things.
Right.
We're human. I have a right to be jovial. I have a right to be sad. And I have a right not to give a shit sometimes too, just like everybody else. But it seems like on days where we really don't give a shit and we're not feeling it, that is when they're like, oh my God, she's always angry. Oh my God, don't bother her today. Oh my God, we'll just slip a note under her door. Oh, she's always, oh my God. It's exhausting. It honestly is exhausting trying to deal with your regular everyday work that you have to do. And then be mindful of your body language because, if you lean forward just a little, you're going to attack them because that's how attack happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
By leaning forward. Or if you raise your voice an octave or clear your throat too fast, just all sorts of things that set them off in the workplace by you simply existing Black in that space.
Mm-hmm. 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 It's so, I think a lot of the issue is we aren't perceived as people in the first place. So we're just not people to them. We're not people. We're not human. We don't get sad or stressed or happy or depressed or, any of those things. We are not entitled in their mind to any of the gamut of emotions to which they feel entitled because we aren't people. They'd have to actually first see us as human to even understand and acknowledge the fact we get to be whatever we are, that we can be assertive, that we can be authoritative, that we can be experts in our subject matter, that we can be articulate. I think that's a lot of the reason why it's, look, I didn't think you could speak like that. I didn't think you could, Ebony. I know when you were recently a keynote speaker at an event I attended, and you talked about how someone commented on the articulation of one of the people on your job who was, I think, a Black man.
Mm-hmm.
She was just like, oh, you're so articulate. You speak so well. And Ebony had to check that person. But they are, I think there's genuine surprise by all of that because they don't see us as human in the first place. So anytime a sliver of humanity shows, they can't process it.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, well, no, that's something that people do. You're not people. You're Black. You're not people. So, what are you doing exhibiting human behaviors? You're not human.
Yeah, I definitely feel that, sure. And even in the amount or intensity of the workload that I'm able to handle, compared to some of my other colleagues, and the workload that my team handles, who I have Black managers and a Black coordinator for my department of 16 folks. The entire leadership team, right, is Black. And I think I have to be careful of what is placed on my team because of that piece of humanness, right? Like,
right.
My team has a breaking point. You're not going to work us to death because we're so efficient. Efficient doesn't mean that we then, of course, push out all of these outputs, outcomes, these amazing services, and other folks, don't have that same capacity. It's not like they're not working hard. We just work more efficient. But then there's this, you can't help but think, do they not see us as human too, or that we experience loss and need to grieve when someone's lost someone? I just had someone on my team have a loss, and I said, I believe in the handbook you have 3 days of bereavement. So I'm not sure why you're here today, but I'm going to need you to take all full of those 3 days and then back that up with some sick days, because you got, 97 hours of sick time, and that use it,
Right.
don't use it because you're coughing and can't get out of bed. Use it to take care of yourself too. And so I constantly have to remessage that, not just to my leadership team, but my entire team to, manage that self-care and to take care of themselves. But I bring some level of discussion to our staff meetings around the impact of being a person of color, just as a reminder. So even the white folks on the team, they know it, they hear it, they speak to it. And it's amazing how when they're able to regurgitate it out when I see them in other spaces, because it's a constant discussion for us, so that it starts to sink in whether they wanted it to or not.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess my last question for you all is, do you have a plan for what's next? Ebony, Ebony, you have lots of different irons on the stove. So,
Yes.
Do you have any plans for anything additional?
Yes, lots of, good question. I am I'm just open right now to what comes my way. And I'm observing and kind of in this phase. I like, if you would have talked to me 6 months ago, I'm 13 years in at Stanford. When I hit 20, that's when I'll retire from there. I'll go full time at UCD until I'm fully vested in my retirement. And then I'll have 2 retirements. And then I'm going to take Healing Grace full time. And now, like I said, just a couple of hours ago, I interviewed for a different position that may bring a different part of me out that I'm exploring still. And so while I still kind of have that trajectory originally in my head, I'm also weighing all of my options, because I do have a little girl that just started college, and that tuition is my natural black ass. So, as people have explored options for me available, I'm always like, no, I'm loyal to the soil. Oh no, if the money is right, I just might jump ship and try something new.
I hear you.
So, but I will continue being of service to others. That is always going to be in my future, and developing and seeing others feel more empowered. As long as it fits within that, I'm all about it. Yeah.
Awesome. Kelly, what's next for you?
You know what? For what it's worth, I enjoy what I do. And because I enjoy what I do, and I guess it shows enough for me to have been given projects that I can grow, which is what I like to do. I like to grow things. You hand me a little tiny foundation, and if I can grow it into something solid, it's a proud moment for me. So I plan on sticking around and digging my heels in and growing my education foundation, because I think it's actually going to be pretty dope by the time I'm finished with it, because they put me in charge of it and let me do it. So I'm not going anywhere. I love it there. I think they are learning me and learning my style, which is helpful. And it's allowing me, again, the freedom to insert myself into a lot of projects that I probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to be in on. So for as long as I can continue to grow in this position and grow the things that are handed to me while I'm in this position, that I'm in it for the long haul. And then I have personal projects that I'm also trying to grow as well, with the help of trusted friends. I think these projects will come to fruition.
They will. At some point. They will. Well, I thank you, ladies, very much for participating, for having this conversation with me today. I thank you for being where you are and the spaces that you two are inhabiting, because those spaces need you. Those spaces might not always deserve you, but they need you. So I'm glad that you are where you are. And I am also glad you are here with me today. So thank you, Ebony. And thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyway, this is the Tackling Tomfoolery podcast. I am Malika Rogers, and thank you for listening.
Ready?
Tackling Tomfoolery is produced by Bren Inman for Evergreen Talent Collective. For more information, find us on the web at www.tacklingtomfoolery.com, on Facebook at Tackling Tomfoolery, and on Twitter and Instagram. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, and make sure you rate and review the show, as that helps people find us. If you'd like to contact the show, email us at tacklingtomfoolery@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at 916-573-1065. Let us know what tomfoolery you're tackling. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.